I sure.
Oh man, you're gonna stir the pot right off the bat, aren't you, William?
Yeah, I am. I am. And I'm probably.
Miss Cece, if you're listening in, just say a prayer for him, would you?
And won't you send her a text and tell her to tune in just for a second? I'll tell her. I'll tell her to her ear. That's right. And
You never learn, do you, William?
I'm not intending on it either. That's not my plan. That's not my plan. Hey, welcome. And that's Ann Wooten Taylor. Hey, Ann.
Hey, how my friends? How are y'all doing?
Oh, we're doing
Ann.
good. Oh, we
Hey.
starting off. Hey, you know your buddy and Dr. Sims, she's out there goofing off, playing hooky and all this kind of stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, she
yeah,
deserves a break. She's been dealing with a lot. She's been sick and going on. So
Yeah.
let her have a day to where she just is free from everything.
She had all
Sick.
week.
What? You just mad because she ain't here for you to flirt with?
No, for me to fuss at, don't start that flirting stuff. No.
Yeah, that's your love language.
I love language. I heard that term several years ago. I said, "What is love language?" Yeah,
Well,
somebody came up with a term and just caught on. Hey, if they're making money on it, more power to them. That's
right,
fine.
right.
No, I'm just telling the truth. Dr. Sims, she's just goofing off. That's it. All right. Okay.
And you
No,
wish you was goofing off with you. I know.
no. Nope.
Yeah.
Not at all. Uh, no.
Getting me.
No,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah.
for a couple of
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah.
We don't agree on anything, and besides, she has a gun.
She does have a gun, and you would think that would give you a measure of caution, but I think you feel like you're safe because you're like a whole continent or half a continent or whatever away on the other side. But there are these things called cars.
Okay.
That can get you there. She might not be able to get the gun on the
That's
plane,
right.
but she can drive cross country.
Yeah,
Trains and automobiles.
she's not
Right.
driving across it. I'm not even worried about it. No, bring it. I'm not even worried. So anyway, let's get back to the orders. So welcome everyone. This is the Boomerang Radio Show.
Hey, y'all.
Sometimes there is some planning that goes into the show. I'll pick the topic and we'll talk about the substance, on air, and I kind of challenge everyone. But hopefully we'll bring some information that is valuable to you. That's the
Right.
whole gist behind the show. Besides, instead of you taking away, well, all these guys do is fuss. No.
We
Like-
play,
like
we
we have
we do
fun.
fuss. You got to admit, William, we do fuss.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like that part.
Yeah, William, we have to pray for you because that
What is it?
you enjoy that part way too much.
And how long you been praying for me, Ann?
Well,
Okay, all right.
see, I met you in 2016. Next year it'll be 10 years that we've been friends. Wow.
I'm sorry about that.
It might. Oh, now you're gonna stick your nose in this, right?
How
And you
long
and
have
I just-
y'all been friends? Because it's been way longer than I've known.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
mm,
Oh, you apologize for that too?
Well,
Don't get me started, Mike. Oh, this is
well,
this is the second time in a week or so that Mike has on a nice shirt with a collar.
well,
Interesting. Yeah.
I wear
Mike,
polo shirts with collars.
I was about to say, how you feel about that?
No, most times he doesn't. And see, when someone does something different, you notice it, right? No, I'm glad I'm rubbing off on the brother. That's all.
Hello.
You know what? After last week's boomerang, I got a letter from OSHA,
Stop it! Stop.
and they said if I'm going to be on the boomerang with you,
Is that a bulletproof
then
vest?
I have to wear my safety equipment from now on.
Wow.
Can you believe this,
Wow.
folks? You guys who are looking at this, okay? We are on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and audio. You can hear us on
They
Alexa.
said they said it was dangerous for me to be on the show with you, so I have to wear my safety equipment from now on.
OSHA
I'm-
said this. Well,
OSHA
isn't that
said this,
something?
okay.
Wow.
I
That's
want
amazing.
to.
They sent me a cease and desist order.
All right, I
Cease
want-
and desist.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want to
to
see.
not talk with William anymore without safety equipment.
I want to
Well.
see the official document and with the official seal on it. Okay.
I think he said he called. They called. Did they call? Because
Oh
if
no,
they
they
called,
knocked
there
on
is
my
no.
door.
Oh,
They
they called
knocked on
to
my
the
door. They
house.
brought a dog.
Okay.
That's
They
Yeah.
brought a fight
amazing.
dog, and
Yeah.
hand delivered a cease and desist order.
I want to see
That's
it. Okay.
amazing.
I
I never heard of such. Wow.
I'm not going to say Mike is lying, but Mike is lying. Okay. That's it.
Well,
Oh, hey guys.
uh,
Okay, let's get it. Let's get
yeah.
into the topic. Oh, so what I posted today was, the question was,
Mm,
how does religion and politics affect your mental health? Okay, and so I thought that'd be an interesting topic to cover because I keep driving it home because obviously there are some great pastors, ministers, great
right,
religious leaders out here. I want to say
right.
that because everything is not all, or when they are all like that, or all like this. I'm not going to say that because it's
Mm.
not true. There are some great pastors out. And speaking of great pastors, I want all everyone to pray for Dr. Demery.
Yes. How is he? How is he?
I haven't heard an update. He's still in the hospital, and they
Okay.
just moved him to another facility. And as soon as I get some information, I'll forward that to you. But
Okay.
some great preachers out here. And
Yeah.
believe it or not, I hope you're not eating because I don't want you to choke on your food. There are some good
Uh-huh.
politicians.
Yeah. Every now and then we get a good one.
There are some good politicians out here. But I
Right.
tell you, it is infested now these days with a corrupt. Hey, Emma, how are you? Preachers,
Hey.
corrupt politicians. And I'm going to start off with this one. Let's see which one I want. Okay. Oh, this one. Oh boy, you guys are speaking of politics. Think about this. These prosperity preachers. I just want you to let this sink in for a minute. Just let
Mm,
it sink in for a minute. These prosperity preachers out here, they are taken from the people with the least to give, and they
right.
have no qualms about it. Now, a lot of these, well, most that you see on TV, these are multi millionaires. Okay, riding around in private jets and said that it's the Lord's will. They need to be on a private jet so they can spread the word. No, they just want to go to the next mansion or the
Mhm.
next island that they own, right? So I want you to check this
Mm.
out. We'll come back, and I definitely want you to jump in here first with this. All right, check this out.
It's what it was. It was
I can barely hear you because you're
$3
breaking
based on
up on my.
like $416 based on its. Oh,
Can you
yeah.
guys
Hey,
see
listen,
that?
I gotta. Yeah. She wants like $1,000 now.
And
I gotta go. Somebody's here. All right. See you. Oh, he hung up. Very busy guy, the Jesus. Very busy guy.
Mike, can you hear?
Who knew that when I
I'm
endeavored
good on my side.
I'm a political commentator and ended up on YouTube and got lucky enough to have all these subscribers that I would do bits that I'm talking to a god on a bat phone to Jesus. Anyway, let's talk about Paula White, once again, the presidential faith advisor. A lot of people, last time I talked about this, when she has the piano playing and she's begging for money or gaslighting her, like really leaning in on this, you're going to be blessed beyond imagination if you give me money. And you won't be blessed if you don't give me money, because God needs practitioners. He needs actors in this, not people who just sit back on the sideline. So if you're poor, sorry, you're not going to get the outpouring of blessings from God upon you. And in that video, a lot of people push back and said, well, you're aligning her with Donald Trump unnecessarily. She's a Trump supporter, but she doesn't really have anything to do with the administration. She's not really. You're being sensationalist. You're being exaggerative. It's filled with hyperbole like everything else you do, Jesse Dollemore. So you're wrong if you think that. I'm going to read this. This is from the White House website, another one of these proclamations from the President of the United States. This is President Trump announces appointments to the White House Faith Office. Pastor Paula White Cain will return to the White House as a special government employee and special advisor of the newly created White House Faith Office. I wonder what her salary is as a special government employee. Apparently not enough, because you just wait for the clip. She wants more money, and you're not going to get your blessing from Jesus unless you come up with the cash. In the last 40 years, White Cane has expanded her influence globally in almost 200 countries, ministering, fighting for religious freedom and humanitarian rights, and advocating for the voiceless. And strike, and strike, and strike, and strike, and strike, and strike, and strike. For the voiceless. She is the founder and president of Paula White Ministries and National Faith Advisory Board. She is president of City Destiny and the overseer and a teaching pastor at Story Life Church in Florida. So it's just a commercial for her. Ultimately, what they're saying, though, is that, oh, no, I want to finish with this one for sure. Paula is a celebrated New York Times bestselling author, teacher, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, mentor, popular TV personality, and spirit-led preacher of God's word. She is married to legendary singer-songwriter Jonathan Cain of the iconic Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band, Journey. That's the other bit of communication I got when I made a comment last time about the piano playing in the background, that's her husband from Journey. So great. Fantastic. So I want to play this video for you where these grifters, these liars, these charlatans, these people who claim to communicate with and have God communicate through them, she's telling you that you need to give $1,000 before Easter if you want this blessing from Jesus, because apparently the only way to be blessed by God, the creator of the concept of money, if not money itself, the only way is to give her money, but you're, I guess, also giving it to God. Because, God, he's on hard times. He pulls his pockets out upside down. There's no money in there with God. It makes a ton of sense. Anyway, watch this, and then we will talk about it on the other side.
And I believe that when you honor God on Passover, starting on April 12th at sundown through Good Friday on the 18th and concluding on Easter Sunday, you can receive these 7 supernatural blessings for you and your house, according to Exodus 23. God will assign an angel
blessings.
to you. He'll be an enemy to your enemies. He'll give you prosperity. He'll take sickness away from you. He will give you long life. He'll bring increase in inheritance, and he'll give a special year of blessing. You're not doing this to get something, but you're doing it in honor to God, realizing what you can receive.
For your special Passover offering of $1,000 or more as the Holy Spirit leads, you will also receive the beautiful 10-inch Waterford Crystal Cross. Don't miss your moment to release 7 supernatural blessings and provision into your life.
Don't miss your moment to receive the Waterford Crystal Cross, everybody. Good times had by all. Yeah. The only way for God to assign an angel to you, you'll be assigned your personal angel, is with $1,000 gift before Easter. God's not interested in helping you if you don't have $1,000, y'all. Come on now, what'd you think? God will be an enemy to your enemies for a payment. Apparently, God is like a paid mercenary, like a bodyguard. I'll be an enemy to.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there.
That's a good spot to stop it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. No, because I would be on the floor holding my side if it weren't so sad. And
Yeah, it's
these people only stay in business because there are people that are gullible enough out here that keeps feeding them. That's where they're getting their money. And if you listen to it on the surface, and I want to get more into and break it down in a psychological thing and tell you, and I want to hear you guys say, how do you think? Or this kind of garbage that we're hearing from these mega church preachers, how much is it affecting someone's mental health? And the people that follow them and believe them, and I just can't understand how anyone can fall for this. I mean, being conned and and she has an office in the White House. The what was that? The office of what?
Don't go there. I don't need to hear the title of that mess anymore. Um,
And I really want to hear what you have to say.
well, the thing about, you called it a con. I think the guy in the video did too. Is that they are masters at tapping into
Mm,
a person's weaknesses, a person's desires, a person's motivations, a person's needs. And when you talk about people of faith, it's a real pliable ground to to work in, because faith, is a substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things
mm,
not seen. That's what the Bible teaches us. So
right.
if we're talking about something to that degree, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, they gotta feel, they can go all day long making up stuff for people to believe in and to have faith in it. And when you have people who are desperate, people who are in need, people who are hurt, people who are in pain,
Mm,
people who are really truly looking for God's help, these people can do a lot of damage, because when you give everything you've got and you believe with everything you've got what they're saying, and then nothing happens, because it is, I think it's Dr. Sims who says they were prophesying instead of prophesying. um it makes you feel like it's your fault, because when something doesn't come to pass, you didn't believe enough, you didn't have faith enough, you didn't
mhm,
do it
Enough
right. It's
money.
always the fault of the person
mm.
who was supposed to be um
Blessed.
exactly, who was supposed to be blessed. If you didn't get the blessing, you did
It's your
something
fault.
wrong. Right, it's your fault, it's not the other person's fault. So I think when you are, hanging on by thread, when you're going through stuff that's causing you mental anguish, physical anguish, emotional distress, that can do a whole lot of damage to a
Mm,
person. And they don't see that, and they don't understand that they're going to have to give an account for any harm that they do, because Jesus said, if you did it to the least one of these, you've done it
mhm,
unto me. So when we're talking about those who are the least ones, we're talking about people who are, in their last wits end. They don't know what else to do, where else to turn. That doesn't mean that you necessarily broke. It means that you are struggling in any sense, whether you are struggling financially, whether you are struggling emotionally, whether you're struggling in terms of your health. I mean, whether, some people taking advantage of the elderly, taking advantage of children, taking advantage of anybody, um, especially if they're in their weakened state. You need to realize that you are in a
mhm,
woe is you type of situation. I ain't saying woe is me, woe is you, whoever you are who's stupid enough to do this. Because it's the same as if you're doing it unto Jesus. That's what he says in his word. I'm just telling you what the word says.
Mhm.
And you will have to give an account for it. You're gonna have to pay for it.
mhm, mhm. And
I'm here. Can you hear
oh,
me?
oh yeah, okay, okay. Mike, I was just reading something, and we were talking about this bad. I would just say bad religion. Yes, negative religious beliefs or experiences can contribute to anxiety. So
Mm,
let's pinpoint that anxiety. Anxiety can lead to a mental problem, I believe. If
And physical. It
and
can make you
physical,
ill
okay,
mm,
physically.
okay. Particularly when they involve fear of punishment. Because what did they say? God's going to punish you if you don't give me this money. Oh, you're not going to get
mm,
your blessings if you don't give me this money. Okay. Or give. Oh, no, no, no. Let me back up. If you don't give God his money. Last time I checked, God ain't got no bank account.
The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof.
Thank you,
So
sister.
all the money, everything already belongs to him, including the people on the planet. Everything belongs to
I
God.
want to know where he's banking. Is it Chase, Wells
He's
Fargo?
he's got what's the high end American Express card? Is it the black one or the gold
black
one?
card.
He's got the high end American Express card.
He's got a bunch of them. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Okay, unlimited.
But check this out. Let me read this again. It can contribute to anxiety. And Mike, I want you to jump in right after this, please. Particularly when they involve fear of punishment, doubt. Doubt is more harmful than we know. If you ever doubt yourself and you go in for something important, it's not going to work out as well as it could have. Okay, I'm telling you. Or excessive worry about sin or religious purity. Mike, I'm getting a headache. Say whatever you put on your mind.
That's because you're off your meds again.
I'm not taking them either. Okay, Mike.
I'm going to back up probably everything that Ann just said. Desperate people will do desperate things because they're in a dark hole. And I had this explained in one of my psychology classes. It's you're in a dark room, you can't see anything, and you're feeling the walls, and you're trying to find the light switch. But because the room's dark, you can't find that light switch. And this is the position that many desperate people are in. They're vulnerable. And unfortunately, these people that are taking advantage of these needy people are gaslighting them and manipulating them because they're vulnerable. So these people are grasping at straws, or trying to find the light switch in the dark room. And it's very, very difficult. And unfortunately, these are the people that can't afford to be giving a lot of money to the church because they're already in dire straits. So for these evil people to take advantage of some of the most vulnerable people in our society is just reprehensible. And I spoke with, I did have a conversation with Dr. Sims recently, where she was explaining to me that a couple of these pastors, if you want to call them that, these fake religious people, I guess some of them are being put into prison now. And I think I can't remember the name of the one guy, but I mean, he was one of the most egregious in taking advantage of people. And it seems to me he's the chickens have come home to roost. And some of these people that have taken such great advantage, and I don't follow like the religious programs and such, so I don't remember his name, but a couple of these people are being investigated for major felonies and taking advantage of people. So finally, I guess they're doing something about these people.
I hope so, because Kenneth Copeland is one of the most egregious. You've got Creflo Dollar, and I think since he's come back to apologize for something, and like something about he was teaching or preaching something that was absolutely wrong.
He did. Wow.
Yeah, I don't
didn't
have
know that.
I don't have any details on that, so I'm not going to speak any further on it. But it's alleged. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I don't put out any false news and things. But there's so many. Because look at what they're doing. Because memory serves. I know it does. Jim Baker went to prison.
There have been televangelists who have gone to prison in the past, so I'm not shocked if they do it again. But yeah, they've gone in the past.
Well, I want you and since both of you have been, are you still in a judicial system? And I'd like an answer to that. What did he do differently than the ones today are doing? Because
Jim Baker?
Because he had to he went to prison, right? And it's because he was grifting and making false promises. I know I'm paraphrasing this to his parishioners, and in other words, conning them out of money.
He was, according to the internet, he went to jail for mail and wire fraud.
Yeah,
45 years. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mail and wire.
He was pardoned though. So,
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. But he was found guilty, and he did go, and like you said, he was pardoned. So
mhm.
Who
my
pardoned him?
question stands. My question stands. What did he did that was so different? Because they today are still committing mail and wire fraud. Because if you
Well,
transact something over, like if you, I give them my credit card, and you, that's wire fraud right there, Mike. Uh, what? Go on.
I was curious who pardoned him. I didn't know he was pardoned.
I don't either.
let me
I didn't.
look.
But he
Let me
did
look.
spend some time there in
Hold on.
prison. But
Yeah,
Good.
he
I
spent
hope
some
he
time
got
there, but he got pardoned.
hope he
Let
got
me look and see
spanked.
who did it.
okay, well, let
You
us
hope
in
he
on
got
this. Man.
spanked? Is it spanked or is it something else you're hoping he got?
I on this show, I hope he got spanked.
Hold on.
I mean, that's as far as I'm going.
Okay,
It's spanked. Yeah.
okay. Well,
Okay.
I hope
Okay.
he got
So
spanked hard. Then.
not
I'm talking
the anally
figuratively.
raped kind of
I understand.
spanked,
No,
or
no,
just
no. I'm
the
talking about
No, Ann
spanked as
trying to turn
oh
something.
punished.
No, Ann trying to turn nothing into something. No, Ann,
oh
I see what you're doing.
no,
No,
they anally rape people
huh?
in prison.
Who said spanked? Mike? Mike?
I said spanked and took it a whole different direction.
Yeah,
Anyway, I
okay.
mean it's
Yeah, okay. I can't believe I'm siding with Mike again. Oh,
I'm just
this is
saying that's
having me.
what happened.
Oh, guess what? We
Well,
still
they
I'm
got
do
talking
anally
literally.
rape people in
we still got more
prison.
time to go in the show. Okay. Ann, I'm sorry. Go
Oh,
on. So,
okay.
She's
why
good.
you
You
No,
know,
no,
reading?
no. I was
I
just
never
saying,
thought here.
being anally raped is.
What?
I never
Never
thought
thought
I'd
what?
hear two things on the boomerang. One, I never thought I'd hear the words anally raped out of Ann's mouth,
Ooh.
nor would I ever expect to hear it on
Oh
the
my God.
But I appreciate the honesty.
I'm
No, she's
just
right.
saying it happens.
Bad things happen in
It
jail.
happens a
That's
lot.
why you want to stay out.
Okay. I'm missing something
Don't
here.
be in
Did
the
that
dark alley at 2
Did that
in the
happen to
morning.
Jim Baker?
Say what?
Okay. So I said, did that happen to Jim Baker, or you guys just making a joke here? I don't know.
No, I'm not making
I
a
don't
joke.
know if
Those
it
bad
happened
things
to
do
him or
occur.
not.
Okay. All right.
I
Okay.
don't know
So
if it happened to him or
okay,
not.
we're
I'm just saying.
tossing that one. We're tossing it. So, but I do want to know. My question still hasn't been answered.
I'm
What
looking
He
your
it
went to
up.
question?
prison for this. Hey, Mike,
Mhm.
Yes.
didn't these goons today, aren't they doing the same thing?
Oh, yeah, because it worked for others. So what they're doing is they're just repeating the process because it has worked in the past. And not all of these bad actors, these evil people, they don't always receive justice. And that's unfortunate for the society. But they're just taking a playbook and running with it because it has worked for so many people. They have been able to receive millions and millions of dollars from people that really don't have it to give, and they're so hopeful. Their heart is so full of, if I just do this one thing, it'll get me out of the hole that I'm in, and they're just, again, I have to use the word desperate, and it's unfortunate that anybody in our society is that desperate that they will believe in these charlatans and actually give them the money that they needed to eat or feed their children. Again, reprehensible.
You know, and the reason why I'm saying this is so dangerous, because everybody believes something. You could believe the wrong thing. We're going to believe something. It's good, bad, or I can't think of anyone that doesn't believe something. Now, you might ask someone about politics. They say, "Well, I don't have an opinion because I don't follow politics." Okay, but what I heard was, or whatever, right? But everyone believes something, and so we talked about certain religious beliefs, such as fear of divine punishment. So these people, it's like I was saying before, they are putting the blame on the victim, so to speak. Let's say that. And did you say, and when it doesn't go right, or did Mike, when you say when it doesn't go right, they blame them? I think you said that, right? They said,
One
oh,
of us did,
Right.
somewhere along the way.
okay. So they're going to guilt trip these people after they've already taken their money and say, and I bet you their solution is, well, why don't you send me another grand? I bet you. Oh, well, you didn't do this right. You probably didn't wait until 5:35 or what's the scripture? Okay. One, say whoever 4:24, whatever it is. You didn't wake up at 4:24 this morning and get on your knees and or whatever. Or you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Like I said, then they put the blame game. Then this person who was gullible enough to give them the money accept the blame. So now you're putting pressure on top of pressure, and like I said, it's baffling and unbelievable on some ends that people can be this gullible. I told you guys a story about when I was working at a firm, and I had an agent, and I split a contract with her that made her almost $5,000. You guys remember the story, right? And so she went to this some evangelist came into town, and this other girl that worked at the office convinced her to go with her. And somehow she felt that she should deposit all of the money that she made based on what he said, because, if whatever you put in, you're going to get it back tenfold. So I guess she figured in a few days she was going to get about $50,000.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
Well, okay. Let's see. This happened about 12 years ago. I don't think it's worked yet. I don't think it's worked yet. But
it's a work in progress.
I can't understand. It makes no sense. Now, maybe you guys have heard about this. Religious OCD. Let's see. Is scrupulosity. SCRUPULOSITY. Religious OCD is also known as scrupulosity. I've never heard of this. Is a condition where you've heard of it before, Ann?
I said no, I haven't heard of it. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like a made up word.
That's to me too. Scrupulosity. Oh God. Okay, is a condition where individuals experience excessive worry and anxiety about religious matters, such as sin, morality, or religious purity. What in the world does that mean? Because did Jesus say anything about religion? And
okay, before I answer that, let me correct myself. I apologize, folks. I said pardon, but it's actually paroled. What happened was he was sentenced. He was found guilty by a jury on 24 counts, and sentenced to 45 years in prison in order to pay a $500,000 fine. But he filed an appeal, and the judge reduced his sentence from 45 years to 8 years. So he ended up serving almost 5 years of that sentence before being paroled in 1994. So anyway, so that's what happened according to this article by ABC News. That, oh my gosh, this was written back in 2018 by the looks of it. So at any rate, in terms of religion versus, as we like to say in the church, relationship, Jesus taught us about having a relationship with the Lord. He taught us what the kingdom of heaven was like. He taught us in a way that we can understand, the way we talk to kids, how we tell kids stories, so that they can see the good side and they can see the bad side, the consequences for bad actions and the consequences for good actions. As far as religion, I don't think I ever recall reading Jesus say that word.
Nope.
Religion. However, but that doesn't mean that he didn't teach us about it. For instance, he gave us examples of religious people doing evil things. Like, for instance, when Jesus went to the temple and he saw that the religious leaders were allowing merchants in the temple to buy and sell, but they weren't just buying and selling stuff. They were cheating the people. And Jesus said that you turned my father's house into a den of thieves. He also talked about the fact that there were people who would stand up looking like they were praying or fasting and whatnot. And Jesus said they had their reward because they were doing it, for show. He mentioned that there were religious leaders putting heavy burdens on the people, whereas then they themselves were behaving as hypocrites. So they're giving them more and more religious rules to follow while they themselves are behaving lawlessly. We see a lot of that going on right now. So he told us the difference between religion and relationship without really having to say those words, so that you can see what it's like to live a holy life, to be transformed by the Lord's Holy Spirit, versus to be one of those people who talk a good game, who talk holy, but there is no holiness within them. The people who are basically hypocrites, who are basically liars. And we have a lot of that going on. But the thing that I love about the Lord's word the most is that he gave us a way to tell the difference between those who are truly following him and those who are not, because it can be difficult, when you have people who say that they're Christian, who tell you, oh, I go to church every Sunday and every Wednesday, and I do this and I do that. Right. They do a whole lot. They're perfect when it comes to showing up. Somebody was like, does the devil ever go to church? I'm like, every Sunday he on time. He and all the demons with him, they are always on time. You don't have to worry.
The devil and his entourage.
Right. They don't
front row.
They don't
guarantee you. They're gonna get the good seat.
Exactly. But
they roll up in the limo.
But the thing about it, that's really sad is that not only do they come to church, but they influence a whole lot of people. You should be coming to church to be influenced by the Holy Spirit, to become a better person. But a lot of people are influenced by the enemy. But here's how you tell the difference between the true Christians and the ones who are not. The Bible says, for the fruit of the Spirit, meaning God's Holy Spirit, is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. That's important to know, because as a Christian, one of the basic tenets of Christianity is that you learn that once you become a believer, you become a new creature, meaning God himself, in the form of the Holy Spirit, fills you, joins to you, and you become in a perfect union. The Bible says there's union between you and the Holy Spirit, and you become a new creature. So he does for you what you can't do for yourself. He makes you holy. He makes you righteous. He makes you basically good enough to enter the kingdom of heaven, because you can't do that on your own. You just can't. So that said, as he is a part of you over time, just like a seed growing, you should start to look more and more, as the Bible says, going from glory to glory, beholding in the mirror, looking more like Jesus Christ. So in other words, God ought to see himself reflected in you. So what is the reflection supposed to show? Well, it's supposed to show love, joy, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Basically, it's just like looking at the fruit of, say, an apple or fruit of a banana. What are the characteristics of a banana? Well, it's yellow on the outside, but if you peel it back, you see it's white on the inside, and it's usually crescent shape. It grows on the tree. That's what you're looking at when you talk about the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit has these 9 characteristics. So somebody is telling you they are a Christian, and that they should at least have a seedling showing up somewhere of love. But if all you hear is hate, You know, they hate people because of the color of their skin. They hate people because they're migrants. They hate people because they're poor. They hate people for this. They hate people for that. They obviously are not displaying the fruit of the spirit in that respect. And God tells you in His Word that the thing you must have above everything is love, because God is love. He is a spirit, and His spirit is love. And if you've got His spirit in you, you are supposed to have love for your fellow man in you. Love for God first and foremost, your fellow man next. That's fundamental. And you are also supposed to be a person of peace. But when you have people displaying nothing but violent tendencies, is violence being spewed from their mouths, talking about doing hurt and harm to other people, and then physically going out doing hurt and harm to people, and even their things, that shows you that they're not who they say they are.
Yeah.
When you've got people who are telling you that they're Christians and they're supposed to be displaying goodness, but all you see are evil actions, like separating kids from their parents. And we're not going to even talk about discrimination against people because for one reason or another, wanting to go to war with people, wanting to steal from people and take stuff that doesn't belong to them, and take whole nations from folks. When you can see the difference, the explicit difference between what the fruit of the Holy Spirit is and the actions of this person being the exact opposite, or these people, this group of people being the exact opposite, that is proof positive that they are not Christians. It's like somebody telling you that, oh yeah, I'm a banana or I'm an apple, and you looking at the tree saying, but I see nothing but grapes and they're rotten. You are sour grapes. You know, that's what happens. And I wish that the world knew this litmus test so that you can stop being fooled by these so-called white Christian nationalists, because these people are not Christians. They know nothing, absolutely nothing about Jesus Christ, because you can tell by the way that they behave, by the things that they say, by their whole belief system, that they do not have the fruit of the Spirit in them. It's just the opposite. They are of their father, the devil, as the Lord Jesus said in His Word. And He gonna let them know, as He said in His Word, when they start saying, but I did this in your name and I did that in your name, He will say, I made you, meaning He created you, but I do not know you, meaning you have no relationship with me. I am not joined to you. I don't have this union with you because you are a believer who accepted me, who repented from your sins, and who took on my characteristics, the number one of which is love. Hope that makes sense, everybody.
It does to me. And I'm gonna say, and then you can go after this, Mike. I don't understand, because see, some things is happening, and you could say, well, we need to cut waste, spending, and abuse. But if you call yourself a Christian and you're going to stop a starving child from having lunch. Now, somebody say, well, the parents should have a better job. That has nothing to do with the child.
Wow.
That has nothing to do with the child at all. Well, the parent should have provided more. But I'm going to tell you something. There are a lot of poor people out here because I was talking to someone earlier today, and Mike can attest to this. At one time, San Bernardino, California was a thriving city. Okay.
All American City back in 1977. There's a big mural on the wall out here still.
Hey, Yep. No question about it. But look at what happened. Aside, and we'll get to that in a second, aside from corruption in politics there, they lost Kaiser Steel, which was a huge influx of income to that city. I'm sure Mike will agree to that. And thousands of people lost their jobs. The Air Force Base shut down.
Norton
Air Force Base shut down. And also there was something with the rail system there that brought revenue to San Bernardino.
They
More about
downsized, and also March Air Force Base, which is in Riverside County, but not very far from San Bernardino. They also downsized. So you had at least those four major entities that Williams referring to all either disappear or downsize immensely, which caused problems in both counties. I read recently back in a couple of years ago where Riverside and San Bernardino County, which is referred to as the Inland Empire, over 50% of people were on some type of assistance program. Over 50% of two counties on some type of an assistance program because of what we're discussing right now. Sorry, Wayne, for interrupting.
No, that's okay, because you know as much about, and even more, because I went to California several decades ago, but you grew up in that area, and it was when I came there in the 80s, things weren't as bad back then because you had the Carousel Mall that was open.
Yep.
Okay,
Inland Center Mall.
That's exactly right, and you had a lot of major brands there in that mall. And
Broadway, Sears, J.C. Penney's, Macy's, all these major entities, all these major players throughout the nation that were here in San Bernardino.
That's exactly right.
Had to shutter their doors.
Okay, now you take all of that away. Now, Mike and I, and there's more that we have, and Mike can probably chime in and tell you a little bit more. But those are a lot of jobs. You're talking about tens of thousands of people, but through all those entities and businesses that we talked about. So take that away. So what's going to happen? Number one, crime is definitely going to go up. Drug use is definitely going to go up. Poverty is there, and people are desperate. And what do desperate people do?
Desperate things.
They find a way to survive. It's a fight or flight response. I mean, you as a human being, you still have those Neanderthalistic. I don't know how to explain it, but in your brain, in your mind, you still will revert back to survival mode. Mm-hmm. Whatever it takes to survive, whatever it takes to protect your children, your loved ones, you're going to do whatever's necessary because that's what's in your Neanderthal brain back here. And it's a survival instinct.
It is. And Neanderthal, you can say animalistic capabilities. But see, when everything is going great, life is great, your health is great, you have no problems about surviving, you have a roof over your head. I mean, everything, you've got that picket fence, whatever it is that makes you happy. When all of that goes away, then the reverse starts happening. It starts happening because Mike said, people are going to find a way to survive. And our animalistic instincts or capabilities will manifest itself. Absolutely. And you hear stories all the time say, oh, I never thought that he was capable of doing that. Folks, we're all capable of doing something if we feel endangered and fear. So there's so many things there, which goes back to my point. All of these things affect our mental health and stability. All of these things. There was a Marine, a friend of mine who, God bless him, he's no longer with us now. But he said, William, pressure would bust a pipe.
All right.
Think about what I'm saying. And people are, you hear someone says, I'm at my wit's end. Whoa. You listen to that person. I said, women, hold it. You okay? Come on, let's talk this through. I'm at my wit's end. Meaning that they don't know what's going to happen next, whether it's to that situation or to themselves, you see. So I can't understand, how can you say you're a Christian, you love Jesus Christ, and you allow a child to starve. I don't care about what the parent situation. I do care about the parent situation, but I'm not going to accept that as an excuse for you not feeding that child. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse at all. And right now they're trying to cut out this school lunch program.
Mm.
And let me tell you how bad that is. And we talk about the test scores. Well, if I'm starving, I can't concentrate. If I can't concentrate,
Right.
pass a doggone.
Right.
Feed the child. I think that's somewhere in the Bible too, isn't it? And some form of fashion that, or either you don't mistreat one.
You certainly don't
Yeah.
mistreat them.
Bless the
Children.
beasts and the children.
Look, none of us who are fortunate enough to be on this earth, we didn't tap our mom or dad on the back, say, "Hey, okay, come and make me."
Right.
We had no skin in the game until we came out.
Right.
Okay.
Literally.
We didn't choose to be here. So let's say, for instance, if I have parents who are bums, which they weren't, but say I am unfortunate enough to be born by a parent who really doesn't give a damn and really didn't want me. It was just, they were having fun one time or whatever it was, and they popped a baby out that they didn't want. Are you going to starve that child because they were born and they didn't ask to come here? And you're going to call yourself a Christian? Or we have politicians right now in the Congress and the Senate and on the Supreme Court that would allow that to happen. There's a case right in Tennessee. I believe it was Tennessee. Someone can fact check me on this, but it did happen in a southern state. And the board, I believe it was in Tennessee, they wanted to vote to get rid of the school lunch program. And in the same hearing, want to give themselves a raise.
Oh, it's even worse now. They want to get rid of migrants who do a whole lot of work around here, but now because there's a labor shortage in these areas, they, like for instance in Florida and Arkansas has already passed laws like this, by the way, within the last couple of years. They are basically rolling back child labor laws so that children as young as 14 can be worked, not just longer hours like an 8-hour shift, but overnight shifts without breaks. Are you kidding me? And then
you have to go to school
still have to go to school. And guess what?
The
parents are required by law to send their kids to school. So if your kids don't show up in school, guess who's going to be in trouble?
Absolutely.
The parent. Guess who all this is going to affect more than anybody else? Poor people, people who have a darker skin than the folks making up all these crazy rules. It's these types of folks. And it's such a hypocritical bowl of foolishness. It's this whole country since colonialism, the entire system that makes America America has been run by migrants, immigrants, whether you came here by force or by choice. You and your ancestors are immigrants unless you're Native American. So how then can these same folks who are basically the offspring of immigrants, unless they're newly immigrated here themselves, turn around and be the biggest hypocrites on the planet and complain that other people want to voluntarily come here for a better life? It is nothing but foolishness. And then have the audacity to say, "Oh, we kind of made a mistake, so now we need to increase the workforce. We're just tapping to these kids instead of letting them go to school because they don't need to know anything anyway. The dumber they are, the easier it'll be to pass these stupid laws and get these crazy people who should never ever be in power anyway, because guess what? It's been proven that that's how they came to power. They've been preying off the ignorance of people who don't know a whole lot. So it'll be a whole lot easier to keep that going if you create a generation of ignorant folks. A whole lot easier. But anyway,
you're spot on. But my issue that I would have, referring to what we're talking about here, is how much are we taking advantage of vulnerable people that are coming across here to try to build themselves a better life and send money home to their loved ones and family. My problem is, if you wish to come here on a work visa, then come here on a work visa and get hired on and get paid a proper wage. My problem and my fear is that many of the people that come here that are desperate work for over the count, or I guess under the table wages, and are paid a non livable wage because they are desperate and they're being taken advantage of. I've got a problem with that. We shouldn't be taking advantage of anybody, whether they're here legally or illegally. Again, I would respectfully submit that people come here legally. We are a nation of laws, Judge Ann, you know that, and we have parameters that we should adhere to. So come here legally. My mother is an immigrant. Her green card is in my safe right now in the other room. My mother's green card. So I'm all for people coming here legally, properly, adhering to our laws, being not a leech on our society, but being helpful and adding to our society. So come here on a work visa, go to work, get a proper wage that's required here in the United States, rather than being taken advantage of and being paid a lesser wage. I have those two problems. Come here legally, come here with a work visa, get a proper wage, make sure that you are a respectful person in our society that's not doing harm to our society. And what do you think?
Well, I can tell you this. You're absolutely right that we do have a lot of people who take advantage of those who are the least ones. Again, those who are desperate.
Wealthy
those
people taking advantage.
Right. Like, for instance, the human traffickers who love to run sex shops, so to speak, under the guise of other legitimate businesses, and then when the place gets busted, so to speak, the folks that they want to put in jail are the so-called people committing the crimes of prostitution. Well, what about the people who own the businesses, who brought them here, who forced them into this type of labor? Those are the folks who should really be punished. I agree with that wholeheartedly. That said, I disagree with kidnapping kids from school campuses, but who are here legally because they have student visas, just because they exercise probably something that they weren't even used to having in their own countries, but the right to free speech. How are we as a people going to round up kids from different universities because they had the audacity to be involved with a peaceful protest or to write an article or something about how they feel about a certain situation? That is insane. That is contrary to everything that America stands for. But we're doing that. We're revoking visas of people like the Haitian people. One of the executive orders that's been issued is that those folks, HB1 visa or H1B, I forget how it's said, their visas have been revoked so that they end up getting shipped back to Haiti. They were here legally. They didn't do anything wrong. Everything said about them was a lie. And it's sad, but that is the way that it's trending right now. Well, we're not looking at whether or not a person is doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing, like you said. That they're doing everything right. They haven't done anything wrong, and they are still being vilified, still being detained illegally, and not only that, arrested illegally. The video was horrifying of this guy in a hoodie walking up to this girl.
The girl, I saw that.
And I was like, if I was her, I would have run. He scared me. But he claims to be a officer, an ICE officer. Really? Well, why are you looking like somebody that's about to rob me? Because that's what he looks like.
Undercover. Right. They're undercover. That's one.
Well, it's one thing to be undercover. It's another thing to I mean, it would be different if he was going undercover to get somebody that, that really was trying to run
A
drugs.
violent criminal. I
Yeah.
get you. So,
Yeah, but
can
she
I
was a
ask you?
student.
Can I ask you two questions then?
Go ahead.
Does freedom of speech apply to everyone that happens to be here in the United States, whether you're a citizen or not, as you're representing these people that are here on student visas or work programs or whatever? The freedom of speech here in America, does that not apply to everyone that's in America?
Freedom of speech applies to everybody that's in America. If you don't believe me, ask the Ku Klux Klan and other white nationalists. That's how they get. That's how they get by with their terrorism. The same stuff that we go after ISIS and Al Qaeda and what other people for overseas for saying, they get to say on a regular basis, all because they are American, and it's considered free speech for them to terrorize people with their rhetoric. But if somebody from Iraq or some Iran or somebody like that says something like that and the CIA gets wind of it, guess what? They're flagged for terrorism and threats against the United States. But you have people right here who terrorize Black and brown people, Asian people, Native Americans, people who are Jewish on a regular basis, people who are disabled on a regular basis, and they get away with it under the guise of free speech.
So that being said, my second question is, if we have free speech, which I think is extremely important, that separates us from many other nations throughout this world. So you shouldn't put parameters on free speech, as we've already been discussing. However, if you are a non-citizen and you're here on a visa of whatever sort, and you are promoting violence against another entity, you're saying hateful, your rhetoric is promoting violence against a group A, B, C, you name it, I don't care. And you're here on a visa, which is you're a guest here in America, and yet you are doing things that are counter to what America is, which is a free place for people to speak and not do violence on other people. If you're promoting violence, or you're actually committing violence on another entity, should their visas not be revoked and sent them home?
In my particular opinion, and this is just my opinion, my personal opinion, if somebody comes to America and we suddenly decided, oh, we're not going to allow the rule of law to apply to you because you're just a guest here, you're just here for a few days, or then we need to say to the same national Christian nationalists, to the same Klan members, to the same white supremacists, that we're going to revoke your citizenship because you are saying the same type of thing to Black and brown people or other people that you don't like on a regular basis, and you get away with it. Under the guise.
I'm sorry, Anna. That wasn't my question. I'm sorry. Please, I apologize for interrupting you.
No,
but I'm talking about people that are here on a guest visa of some sort.
And what I said was, those people who are guests, if we are going to tell them we are going to revoke your right to be here as a guest, then we can say this. We should, in my personal opinion, say the same thing to the people who were born here, who live here, who commit those same actions verbally, who incite violence verbally against other people, against other groups, simply because they don't like them. I'm saying is, we're being hypocrites when we tell people who come here that they can't practice free speech, and this is America, that they can't say what it is that they believe to be the truth. And number one, and number two, we don't give them due process, because it's one thing for you to say somebody has done this. It's another thing for you to give them their day in court to prove whether or not they actually did it before you put them on a plane and ship them to an El Salvadoran prison.
Yeah, everyone should be allowed due process. I completely agree. My problem is, if you have, let's go to the KKK. Let's go to the people that spread hate, discontent,
and incite violence against people of color and women.
But they're American citizens. They're not on a visa. So where would you send them if they're an American citizen, born here, raised here, multi-generational here, and they're doing what you and I and William all consider to be very much evil? Where would you send them?
The same place the Trump administration has been sending them. They've been sending people who were born here, people who are legally here, been here for 30 years or more. All American citizens, whether you were born here, whether you have been here for 30, 40 years, whatever, they have been sending people out of the country who are legal citizens. They didn't stop to say, hey, where did your people hail from? They just sent them to Guantanamo. They just sent them to El Salvador because they do not care. They are not giving anybody due process. They are flouting the court's orders and just being completely lawless, because this is a group of people that their constituents don't like. It's weird because these are the same folks who would love to tell you that they are this kind of American and that kind of American because their folks came from here or came from there. And at the same time, they get upset because other people are coming here. And don't get me wrong, I get that people are saying that in places like California or whatnot, they're having an influx of folks and it's way too many for their areas to handle. I don't live in California. I don't live in New York or Florida, or Texas. So I don't see that on a regular basis. And I can imagine that, things should probably work to where there's a better distribution of people, that's something that should be worked on. But I do not think that we are treating immigrants fairly, or that we are living up to what our laws say should happen to a person. And our laws say that in this country, you have the right to free speech. Now, I'm not saying that you should be inciting violence, because we also have laws about terroristic threatening. It's just funny how we apply those particular laws to different people or different groups in a very indiscriminate manner. Because in my opinion, white nationalists, white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan, all of them engage in terroristic threatening on a regular basis. All of them should be prosecuted for inciting violence and all that type of stuff. But we're not even looking at them in that way because we're calling that free speech. But if somebody brown comes over here and does that same thing, we want to violate their First Amendment right to free speech that everybody in America gets, even when you're a guest here, or B, we want to quickly deport them, if not doing both of those things at the same time without giving them a trial or any kind of way to defend themselves. We're violating their due process rights.
Laws, rules, policies, and practices should apply equally and fairly to everyone, or they don't mean anything. So
we're not doing that.
And I will back you up on the due process, because how can I point to my neighbor and go, well, he's guilty of something. I don't know what it is, but you got to have due process, or again, the laws and policies and practices don't mean anything. Right. But I need to clarify with you. Are you saying that there's people that are citizens of the United States, whether they're natural or by way of becoming natural, or whether they were born here, naturalized citizen? Are you telling me that people that are citizens under that umbrella are being sent to Guantanamo
and picked up by ICE, and their rights are being violated,
sent elsewhere? Is that? Are you telling me that citizens of the United States are actually being put in Guantanamo without committing a crime or without due process?
Yep. They are being picked up by ICE. Now, where they are ending up, I'll look that up for you in just a second, so that we have.
Because if that's happening, that's outrageous.
It is outrageous, but it is happening. That people who are naturalized citizens or people who were born and raised here are being scooped up by ICE, and they don't care. It is not about getting rid of gang members. It is not about protecting us from folks who are violent criminals. even the people who did come across the border illegally, a lot of those folks have no criminal history. A lot of those folks are not gang members. They are not even giving them a chance to prove who they are. They're just picking people up, shipping them out of here because number one, they want to look like they're doing something that wasn't already being done, slowing the flow of migrants that was already in progress beforehand. But number two, they want to get rid of as many of them as they can, and they don't like the numbers that they've been seeing so far. But let me look up. I looked up William, what you were talking about, and according to what I see, it's not that they voted to end free lunch, but there was a bill to provide free breakfast and lunch to all public schools in Tennessee that failed to get passed. So that's the first fact check. The second one is
so you say they are getting fed or they're not getting fed?
I'm saying that they tried to pass a bill to provide free breakfast and lunch to all public school students in Tennessee, but that bill did not pass.
That means they're not getting fed.
So well, I don't know what the status quo was before that bill didn't get passed. So there may be some children who don't get a free breakfast. However, it's probably, and this is just being a parent and a kid and a person who grew up in the public school system, the way it stands, at least here, is that there's a program for people who qualify for free lunches and whatnot, but you have to fill out the form, your parents do, to prove that you qualify for it, and then those kids get free breakfast and free lunch. And you know, it's one of those things where if you gave it to all the kids, then it wouldn't matter what the income level of the parents are. For instance, my kids have gotten in trouble because they've gone to school and and their kids are like, well, come in here and eat. Their friends are like, come in here and eat with me. And AJ and Alex will go and eat. And then we get a bill from the schools like, why are you in there, eating this stuff? Well, my friend said to eat with them because it's free. It's not free for you. It's free for him because your parents do not qualify for that. But, you don't want to tell kids that unless you have to, because you don't want them to think, oh, there's a problem here with your friend. But every year seems like they'll act like they have forgotten that. For instance, I got a bill now from the school where my young one has decided to eat something that he knows, because we've had this discussion on a regular basis. This is not free for you. I don't care how many times your friends say it's free. It's not free to you. So I would guess, and this is just a guess, that they are qualifying for that particular program, which I think has a lot to do with the Federal Department of Ed giving money for that program.
Oh, we still got that.
It's still there. It's hanging on by a thread. But what I'm saying is, it should be something in place. I'm guessing that's what was already in place, and what they were trying to do is expand that so that everybody can get it. Now, I'm gonna look up the stuff for Mike now about people being deported who are not illegal immigrants.
Okay, and while you're doing that, I've got another clip that I must play for you guys.
Go ahead.
So kick back and enjoy. And I would thank our audience too for listening in and engaging with us each and every Sunday. It means a lot.
You almost fell into coast to coast there for a second. Kick back and grab a glass.
I almost did.
Not on the boomerang.
No, you caught that, didn't you?
I did.
All right.
Donald Trump's attempt, his concerted effort to erase the accomplishments of Black Americans, is something I've been talking about, covering it. And it continues in a very dangerous way that reaches beyond the power of the presidency itself. I want to read a couple things here. I've got an AP article I want to read a couple paragraphs from. I've got an executive order from yesterday from Donald Trump. And I have proof that it is not within his power to commandeer, to hijack, to overtake in a hostile takeover the Smithsonian Institute, where he is specifically attacking the Black History Museum, the African American History and Culture Museum here, which, by the way, if you haven't gone, is a fantastic visit. It's a wonderful new addition to the Smithsonian lineup of museums here. Unbelievable displays and installations there. But let me read just, I'll put this on screen. This is his executive order. I want to read just a little bit from it to give you a flavor for the propaganda and the lies. And then we're going to get to why it's not within his purview as the president of the United States. But here we go. This is restoring truth and sanity to American history. The man who doesn't even know what year the Spanish flu was, who continues to ramble about conspiracy theories and lies and that the 2020 election was stolen or rigged or whatever. This is not someone we can rely upon for an accurate read on history when even the basics, like the Spanish flu of 1917, he gets one thing in his head and then he just sticks with it. Again, restoring truth and sanity to American history. By the authority vested in me as the president, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. It's already off to a bad start. We'll get to it about the legal nature and the founding of the Smithsonian Institution. It's not within his purview to do any of this. Section 1, purpose and policy. Over the past decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history. Is it on the part of liberals and rational thinking individuals who want to rewrite our history, Donald Trump? Or is it you who wants to ban books and your Republican Party who wants to alter the understanding of history in our country? You want to bolster the lost cause nonsense of the Civil War. You want to re-erect Confederate monuments to traitors to our country. And you want to erase the contributions of Black Americans, of women, of Navajo code talkers. It is white supremacy run amok here. Replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. The revisionist movement seeks to undermine the remarkable achievements of the United States by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. Under this historical revision, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, or otherwise irredeemably flawed. Rather than fostering unity and a deeper understanding of our shared path, I love that. Fostering unity, he says. A deeper understanding of our shared path. Oh, yes. And widespread effort to rewrite history deepens societal divides and fosters a sense of national shame, disregarding the progress America has made and the ideals that continue to inspire millions around the globe. So he's admitting that some dark, horrific shit has taken place under the auspices of democracy in the United States. Otherwise, why would we need to make progress in any way, Donald Trump? But I love that. Rather than fostering unity and a deeper understanding of our shared past, what is it about our shared past, Donald Trump, that you want people to understand? Is it that we held Black people in bondage under a system that was raping and torturing and murdering them for hundreds of years? Is that the shared past that you want us to remember, or is that the shared past you don't want taught? You say that white kids feel ashamed to be white because slavery took place in this country. Donald Trump doesn't have any ability legally to do what he is doing. I'm going to read a little bit from this AP article, but let me read this from the Smithsonian website. This is the legal history from the Office of General Counsel. The legal nature of the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian Institution is considered unique in the federal establishment. The Smithsonian is not an executive branch agency and does not exercise regulatory powers except over its own buildings and grounds. Thus, courts have held that the Smithsonian, is not an agency or authority of the government, as those terms are used in certain laws applicable to the executive branch agencies, such as the Privacy Act, the Administrative Procedure Act, the Freedom of Information Act, and the Federal Advisory Committee Act. However, The United States Attorney General has concluded that the Smithsonian is so closely connected to the federal government that it shares the immunity of the United States from state and local regulation. In accordance with this doctrine, local zoning regulations, ABC licensing provisions, sales and use taxes, and real estate taxes are not applicable to the Smithsonian absent a specific federal statute. And then they go through these other instances. Courts have also held that the Smithsonian enjoys the immunity of the United States from lawsuits unless such suits are authorized by Congress under federal statutes. And they go through there. The Smithsonian operates as a unique fixture in the United States government, and it does not fall under the purview of the president of the United. It's not the Kennedy Center, Donald Trump. You don't just get to remake the board. You don't get to destroy artifacts and things held and owned by the Smithsonian by virtue of that, the government. You are not a king. And all of this is in an effort to erase the contributions of Black Americans. And he has his sights set specifically on the African American History and Culture Museum. I'm getting the full name of it wrong. The National Museum of African American History and Culture. So this is the article from the AP. There's 3 paragraphs I want to read. Trump executive order on Smithsonian targets funding for programs with improper ideology. Let me read 4 paragraphs. I'll read the first one here. President Trump on Thursday revealed his intention to force changes at the Smithsonian Institution with an executive order that targets funding for programs that advance divisive narratives and improper ideology, the latest step in a broadside against culture he deems too liberal. And then here we go. The executive order also hints at the return of statues and monuments of Confederate figures, many of which were taken down or replaced across the country after the police killing, the police murder. He was found guilty of murder. Associated Press, not just killing, murder. Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. Were taken down or replaced around the country after the police murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis in 2020 and the rise of Black Lives Matter movement, which is detested by Donald Trump and other conservatives. Trump singled out the National Museum of African American History and Culture, which opened in 2016 near the White House, the Women's History Museum, which is in development, and the American Art Museum for criticism. Quote, museums in our nation's capital should be places where individuals go to learn, not to be subjected to ideological indoctrination or divisive narratives that distort our shared history, he said. The only this is projection. This all the things they're guilty of, they point and accuse others of. The only people that are trying to distort our shared history are Republicans. We want to tell the full story so we don't make the same mistakes we have in the past. We don't want to live in a country that oppresses marginalized groups, that murders members of marginalized groups. We don't want to forget the horrors that have taken place under the guise of white supremacy in this country. We don't want to forget that because we don't want it to happen again. We want to correct the wrongs of the past. That's why I advocate for reparations for descendants of slaves in this country. Donald Trump advocates for reparations for January 6th insurrectionists. He advocates for refugee status for white South Africans because, oh, those scary black people are making it bad for them there. This is white supremacy. This is a concerted effort to erase at the very least, the contributions of, but I think they would love a white ethno-state. They would love to erase the existence, or at least the residence and citizenship of black people in this country, because they pose a threat to Donald Trump and the order of white supremacy under color of law. What do you think, though? I would invite you to this conversation. You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line 714-5.
All right. I'm going to stop the screen. Okay. I saw that earlier today, yesterday, whatever it is. And Mike and Ann, I was livid. And this goes back to the misconception and statements about DEI. What does history, things that actually happen, have to do with DEI? And it's just like in the military, with Pete Hegseth. I know his name. I was trying to think of the proper term. I'm just going to say that. You talk about incompetent and non-qualified. Mr. Signalgate himself. He says, we're going to get rid of all DEI in the military. And what does he do? He takes down the history. And Michael and I talked about this yesterday. Jackie Robinson, an icon in American history. And he wants to get rid of the red tails. I mean, we talk about Tuskegee Institute's finest. Those of us who have our eyes open enough know what the red tails did for this country and for the Army. Folks, this is actual history. So when they talk about DEI, they talk about erasing Black history. They're not, okay, this crap about, okay, well, he got the job because he's Black. Did you stop to think that when Black people were allowed to apply for these jobs, the employer says, whoa, this is a resource here of talent that we've been ignoring for years, and perhaps that's why they got the job. But let's get back to what I'm saying. Why would you dare talk about defunding a part of the Smithsonian Institute that records and collects data, artifacts, and everything? Why would you want to defund that? So when they say get rid of DEI, what are they really saying? History is history. And you want to rewrite history? So you say, okay, this person got this job because they were Black. We can have that conversation because I'm going to do my best to prove you wrong each and every time. They got it because they were qualified. But aside from that, what has already happened? Why would you throw that valuable history away? Mike, I'm going to let you be the first to go and comment on that. Your take on him wanting to defund the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. Okay, with all this history, this information, facts about things that have happened. Your take on that?
Well, as I've said before here on the Boomerang, if we discount or don't pay attention to history, and in particular negative history, then we're doomed to repeat it. And I wish I was smart enough to come up with that saying, but I'm not. So I appreciate the person that actually came up with that. But yeah, we're doomed to repeat bad things if we forget where we came from. So let me start with that. As far as defunding entities that promote knowledge and history and everything that we're discussing here, that's wrong. Now, if those entities, whether it's this museum or another museum or some other entity, if those people are spreading hate, discontent, or evil towards other segments of our population, then that needs to be looked at with a very discerning eye and say, well, wait a minute here. You're not talking about just history. You're talking about being negative towards other people, which I abhor. So history in its purest form is wonderful, and we should never forget our history. And evil, as you and I and Ann and Dr. Sims have spoken about many times on Boomerang, evil is something that needs to be fought at every corner of this earth, not just here in America, but everywhere. Evil should be fought. And was talking about the devil being in church. The devil doesn't show up late for church with all his entourage in the limo. And we need to be aware of those things, and we need to fight those things constantly, consistently, and in a fair, even-handed manner, which promotes the humanity, not a segment of humanity, but all humanity. That's where our focus should be, is like, are we being fair and equitable towards everyone? I'll go back to what I said earlier. Either the laws, rules, policies, and practices apply equally and fairly to everyone, or we're messed up. We're not doing the right thing.
I agree.
I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, William, but that's what I got.
No, I wanted you to say what was on your mind, and I think that you did answer my question. My thing is, he wants to defund history because that's not, well,
it's not beneficial.
Yeah, it's not beneficial. Yet restore something that for a long time America has poo-pooed and said, no, we don't want that. And that is bringing back the Confederate or the Confederation, right? And bring back those statues which have a negative appearance and also an impact on society as a whole. Damage. So when these people talk about, and see, this is where when you start talking about DEI and things of that nature, and you say, okay, let's get rid of DEI, and you said, well, let's get rid of with the military, let's get rid of all the history. Positive, as a matter of fact, because nobody's going to deny that people like Jackie Robinson or the Red Tails or the great soldiers that fought in combat, and their history need to be erased. That is absolutely crazy. That is absolutely crazy. That makes no sense. So when they start talking about DEI, that's what they mean. Get rid of anything black. That's a damn shame. You're going to throw away. That's a crime.
That's a crime.
That it should be. And
it's not just black, brown. It doesn't matter. If you're going to segment people into categories and put them in a piece of this pie, you're 25%, you're 12%, you're 50%. If you're going to segment off people, all you're causing is division among people and resentment. Because if one group, I don't care what, if it's group A, group B, group C, it doesn't matter. If you're going to cause one group to have stuff that the other group can't have, that's wrong. Again, it shouldn't be a black race, a brown race, a yellow race, a white race. It's the human race. And the more we can stop segmenting people into categories and putting you under some type of umbrella is wrong. Now, do we have racism throughout the world? Absolutely. Do we have it here in the United States? Absolutely. Is it better than it used to be? I think it's better, because I remember growing up in the 60s and 70s. I think we're far better off now. Is it happening fast enough? No. Could it be better? Yes. Could we as human beings do a better job of not putting people into categories and drawing fences? Yes, we could. And I'm not sure how to exactly go about it. And William, I'm gonna upset you, buddy. I'm sorry. DEI is not the way to do it, because one group benefits at the detriment of another group. That's what DEI does. It's not giving people an opportunity. You can apply for the same job I can apply for, and DEI is detrimental to some and beneficial to others. That is drawing lines that separate us by, once again, a category or a wall. I don't have an answer, William, and I know what I just said upset you, but the way they're going about it with DEI, I think is detrimental to us as a society.
Well,
sorry, William.
The only thing that upsets me is that you don't know what DEI means. Okay,
it means separating people.
No. Yep. Not no. If you and I are in the foxhole together, okay, and we're there to look at, have each other's back, do you give a hoot what color I am? And let's say, for instance,
Nope.
I end
There's
up
no lines.
no, wait a minute, hold it. But I end up saving your life and maybe some other soldiers, or vice versa. And I happen to get a Purple Heart, or you end up getting a Purple Heart. Should that be erased out of history?
Nope.
That's what my point is. That has
So stop
nothing.
drawing lines.
That has nothing
Stop
to do with
segmenting us.
that has nothing to do with DEI. What you are failing to understand, and the people who fail to understand it, who otherwise will have common sense about this or a good heart about this. DEI simply means that I got a chance for that promotion. I got a chance to get that job. And
Can I
by
ask you?
chance, let me finish. By
I know,
chance,
but I do have one question when you're finished.
then let me finish.
And then I want to hear from Ann.
Mike. Okay, nobody's going to hear from anybody unless I'm able to. Okay,
Go ahead and finish, William. Go ahead and finish.
Yes. Okay. What I'm saying is diversity means that everybody gets a shot. Equity means that everybody should be able to share. Inclusion means that, yes, I did get the opportunity to interview. That's all that means. Nobody's hiring anybody because they're black, white, green, or yellow. It doesn't happen. These employers are not stupid. They're not going to take a more qualified Mike over a less qualified William. They're not going to do that. Okay, because number one, it affects their bottom line. But that line that I'm going to let's put my stake in the ground here is that DEI means that I get a chance to get a seat at the table if I'm qualified. And
well, hang on.
Let
Ann,
him
I'm
ask
sorry.
his question.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I have
No.
one quick question. I have one quick question, William. You and I have known each other for well over a decade now. Name me one job that you and I can both apply. Let's simplify this. You lived in Southern California. We have a grocery chain out here called Stater Brothers.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Can I go apply for Stater Brothers just like you?
Why wouldn't you be able to?
I don't know why.
So tell me what job. Tell me what job I can apply for that you can't apply for.
I don't have the answer to that question. I don't have an answer.
Hold on. I'm confused now. Your argument is that DEI is giving somebody an advantage or giving a groups an advantage over other groups. So are you saying certain groups can apply for jobs, but white people can't? Is that what you're asking?
I'm saying preferential treatment is being given to a group at the detriment of another group.
And I'm trying to figure out how, because the way I understand the application process for most jobs is you go to most people say go to our website and apply there. So the computer is not doing facial rec to see who's white and who's black applying for the jobs. The computer's just taking the application submissions. So how, I guess I don't understand how you think somebody's being preferred. So if some people can apply and some people can't.
Well, if the computer is taking the application and I put in an app that says I'm capable of doing A, B, and C, and William does the same app and he's capable of doing A, B, and C, why do we need DEI?
Well, that's a really good question. And the answer to that question is because historically you have people, usually white people, who do not and will not hire people who don't look like them, who do not even hire people who are the same gender who are not the same gender as them. So white men historically have a history of not hiring women, of not hiring Black people, Native American people, Asian people, not hiring people with disabilities. And so because that is so prevalent within the United States and has been for hundreds of years, there had to be laws put in place to force them to do what they were not inclined to do on their own. That's why you have the civil rights movement and the Civil Rights Act and the 14th Amendment and affirmative action and diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Because if you leave people to their own devices, as you like to say, their evil nature will be more prevalent, and they will discriminate against people based on all of those reasons that I just mentioned, because they don't want people who don't look like them in those positions. Case in point, we've had a very, very glaring example of this anti-DEI Trump thing being put into action. The assumption is by the Trump administration that anybody that's brown, anybody that's a woman, anybody that's got a disability, anybody that's, doesn't think like them, same religion, whatever, is incompetent. So, and that we've been trying to anti-white everything. So they have whited the whole Trump administration and proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that these people are just as incompetent, if not more so, than all the folks you've been.
Incompetency isn't a race thing. Incompetency is just
was a race thing. It's a race thing for the Trump administration, which is why everybody in the Trump administration, especially those involved in this Signalgate thing, are white males, except for 2 women. And then they incompetently got on an app and talked about war strategy, war plans, war attacks, whatever word they want to use to try to make it seem like it wasn't classified information. And the whole world knows that it was a matter of gross incompetence. This didn't happen a few months ago when there was a Black Joint Chiefs of Staff. That didn't happen a few months ago when the leader of the Pentagon was a Black man. It happened just a couple of weeks ago with all white folks. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is you can't point to the fact that, the Biden administration was much more diverse, and because there's so much diversity there, that there was a problem. It wasn't a problem because there was diversity there. There's a problem. There's a problem when you have individuals, and this is what I think you are saying on a regular basis, who are not competent, who are not qualified, who should not be in certain positions. Hegseth has proven what everybody was saying before he was confirmed, that he is one of those people. He should not be in the position that he's in. Tulsi Gabbard has proven what everybody said before she got that position, that she is incompetent. She should not be in the position that she has been appointed to. But they have been put in those positions, and look what's happened just in a very short period of time. Mm-hmm. Hadn't been in a position 2 months, and you have already shown just how badly of a decision it was to even think of them being given those positions of power in this administration or any administration.
That's right.
Okay, so that said, I found 3 different articles because it's 6:44 and I don't know how much time I'm gonna have to get this out. But I found 3 different.
Real quick, one second, Ann. A.T. Cowan, our good friend, haven't heard from her in a while. Yeah, she says she thinks Mike is talking about affirmative action, and it's not the same as DEI.
They seem to make them the same. They treat them the same, right, in my opinion. And I don't think affirmative action is a bad thing either. I think they both accomplish the same, have the intent, especially of accomplishing the same thing, of forcing people who would otherwise use discriminatory practices to obey the law and allow people who don't look like them, who aren't the same gender as they are, who aren't necessarily able-bodied in the same way that they are, to have an opportunity to get a job. That's what I think it is. Yes, but that said, can I go ahead now with the articles?
One last thing, because I want to comment on a point that you made. Mm-hmm. And you had 18 people on that Signalgate call that should be fired total incompetence. That includes the Vice President of the United States. You're looking at Marco Rubio. We can go down the list. Total incompetence. Perhaps you needed some DEI in there. Go on, Ann.
Well, I think they are the poster children for DEI. No. For DEI itself, because we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And the attack has been that people who fall under that umbrella, so to speak, are inherently incompetent, inherently unqualified, inherently have unjustly been given something that they don't deserve. And then here we go with your quote anti-DEI movement, so to speak, in the Trump administration, and you've got everybody, this homogenous group of mostly white men, 2 white women, and they have proven exactly what you have been claiming that goes on with people who fall under the umbrella of DEI, that they are incompetent, that they were unjustly given a position that they did not deserve, that they are unqualified, basically that they're just ignorant people that should not in any way be in those positions. They have proven what we have been saying the whole time, that it's not about diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility that is a problem. The problem is you have a bunch of racist, discriminatory people who are not satisfied unless everything looks like them, and everyone who does not look like them, who don't believe what they believe, are subservient to them. And that's what this is about. The grass is not green enough if they can look to the left or the right and see somebody brown at that same level. It's completely all about power. It's about who has the power, who has the authority, who is the decision maker, and they don't want it to be anybody who doesn't look like them, period. And they would prefer to have somebody who's not to have somebody who's not of the same gender making those decisions either, which they've proven too. But okay, that said, there's a ProPublica article as well as an article by the Chicago Sun-Tribune, and on Senator Warren's website, he talks about an incident concerning one of his constituents and what he's doing to help one of his constituents. So I'm not going to read the whole things of all of them, but I do want to give you enough information so that you'll know that it's not something that I'm just making up about them ICE arresting Americans. Okay. So this ProPublica, you're welcome. ProPublica article on immigration says some Americans have already been caught in Trump's immigration dragnet. More will be. Federal immigration authorities have a history of wrongfully detaining U.S. citizens. So this isn't the first time it's happening, but it's happened a lot more lately. Advocates warn that the Trump administration's immigration policies mean that more citizens will get caught up in raids and sweeps. After about a week after President Donald Trump took office, Jonathan Guerrero was sitting at the Philadelphia car wash where he works when immigration agents burst in. The agents didn't say why they were there and didn't show their badges, Guerrero recalled. So the 21-year-old didn't get a chance to explain that although his parents were from Mexico, he had been born right there in Philadelphia. They looked at me and made me put my hands up without letting me explain that I'm from here, Guerrero said. An agent pointed his gun at Guerrero and handcuffed him. Then they brought in other car wash workers, including Guerrero's father, who is undocumented. When agents began checking IDs, they finally decided that Guerrero was a citizen and quickly let him go. I said, look, man, I don't know who these guys are and what they're doing, said Guerrero. With anything law related, I just stay quiet. Less than 2 months into the new Trump administration, there's been a small but steady beat of reported cases like Guerrero's. In Utah, agents pulled over and detained a 20-year-old American after he honked at them. In New Mexico, a member of the Mescalero Apache Nation, for those of you who don't know, those are Native Americans, more than 2 hours from the border, was questioned by agents who demanded to see their passport. Earlier this month, a Trump voter in Virginia was pulled over and handcuffed by gun-wielding immigration agents. In Texas, a 10-year-old citizen recovering from brain cancer was detained at a Border Patrol checkpoint and eventually deported to Mexico with her undocumented parents and other citizen siblings in February. The family said it was rushing her to an emergency checkup in Houston when Border Patrol agents ignored a hospital letter that the family had used to go through checkpoints before. An agency spokesperson said the family's account was inaccurate, but declined to provide specifics. It's unclear exactly how many citizens have faced the Trump administration's dragnet so far. And while previous administrations have mistakenly held Americans too, there's no firm count of those incidents either. All right, now that's ProPublica. The Chicago Sun-Times says immigrations agents arrested a U.S. citizen and created warrants after an arrest, lawyers say in court. Chicago attorneys were in federal court Thursday accusing, and by the way, this was written March 14th, 2025, accusing federal agents of violating immigration law and the constitutional rights of at least 22 people since January. Chicago attorneys with the National Immigrant Justice Center and the ACLU of Illinois accused the federal government in court Thursday of violating immigration law and the constitutional rights of at least 22 people who were arrested and detained in the Midwest since President Donald Trump's inauguration as part of his crackdown on immigration. 2 people are still in custody. 19 were released on bond, and 1 has already been deported. Attorneys are asking for the immediate release of people still detained, bond reimbursements, weekly reports on immigration arrests, and additional training and discipline of federal agents involved in the arrest. The motion filed against the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency said federal agents arrested at least 1 person without probable cause. Attorneys also accused the federal government of making arrests without proper warrants and creating warrants in the field after the arrest. Attorneys say these actions violate the Nava settlement, a 2018 class action lawsuit filed in response to unlawful arrests by ICE agents who used traffic stops and other tactics to make arrests without a warrant. Under the agreement, ICE officials can conduct a warrantless arrest if they believe an individual is likely to escape, but they must provide evidence. But in the motion filed Thursday in federal court in Chicago, attorneys said federal agents since January failed to assess whether there was probable cause that an individual was likely to flee before a warrant could be issued. No one disputes that ICE has authority to do immigration enforcement in the U.S. and Chicago, anywhere in the U.S., said Mark Fleming of the National Immigrant Justice Center's Federal Litigation Project. But they only have authority to do it under the laws that Congress have passed or are part of the legal limitations of the U.S. Constitution. Fleming says the rhetoric of mass deportation is putting a lot of pressure on federal immigration officials to get their detention and arrest numbers up. In order to do the mass deportation that the administration has demanded of them, federal agents are going way outside the bonds of the legal guardrails around arrest and deprivation of liberty, both within the immigration laws, but also under the U.S. Constitution, Fleming said. ICE agents believed that they had developed a workaround the settlement, albeit an unlawful one. An ICE spokesman declined to answer questions, saying the department doesn't comment on litigation proceedings or outcomes. The 22 cases include Chicago resident Julio Noriega, 54, a U.S. citizen who, according to court documents, was arrested, handcuffed, and spent most of the night at an ICE processing center in suburban Broadview. He was never questioned about his citizenship and was only released after agents looked at his ID. Quote, "I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and am a United States citizen," end quote, Noriega said in his statement, adding that on January 31st, after buying pizza in Berwyn, he was surrounded by ICE agents and arrested. Officers took away his wallet, which had his ID and social security card. They then handcuffed me and pushed me into a white van where other people were handcuffed as well. In another case, Abel Orozco Ortega was detained outside his home in suburban Leon without a warrant just as he was arriving home from buying tamales. Federal agents were looking for one of his sons, who is about 20 years younger, but arrested Orozco Ortega instead. In his statement, Orozco Ortega, 47, said an agent who identified as a police officer approached his car and asked to see a driver's license. Orozco Ortega was arrested shortly after showing a temporary visitor's driver's license, which used to be given to non-citizens in Illinois. Instead of releasing him, federal agents allegedly kept him in the back of the vehicle and purportedly created an administrative warrant while Orozco Ortega was handcuffed, said Fleming, the National Immigrant Justice Center attorney. Orozco Ortega has been detained at the Clay County Jail in Indiana for about a month. In another case in Liberty, Missouri, 12 restaurant workers were barricaded inside a Mexican restaurant, guarded by armed Department of Homeland Security agents, who then arrested the workers without a warrant, according to the legal document filed on Thursday. Missouri is one of 6 states, along with Illinois, covered by the Nava settlement. In the document, attorneys argue the agents tried to cover up these settlement violations by allegedly providing arrest documents that were backfilled after the fact to justify the warrantless arrest. Now, those are 2 articles. Then you have U.S. Senator Mark R. Warren, Democrat, Virginia, wrote to leadership at the Department of Homeland Security and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement regarding their enforcement practices, specifically highlighting a March 5th incident where a U.S. citizen and Virginia resident was stopped and interrogated by ICE. The individual reports that he made multiple attempts to prove his citizenship, but despite these efforts, was handcuffed and questioned about his immigration status. Now, I'm going to stop there because we are running out of time, but I just wanted to emphasize the point that we are not only deporting people who are immigrants who probably did come illegally, and we're not giving them due process. We are at this moment, folks, making children defend themselves in court because we're no longer providing them with an attorney. These are kids who don't speak English, let alone know how to navigate the U.S. legal system. But who cares? They're kids. They're not here legally. And then we are also incredulously, we are blaming them if they don't make it to court on time. So how if you're not an attorney and you're a child, how is it that you get a notice telling you that you have to be in court? How do you get transported to court if you're a kid and you can't drive? How do you defend yourself? If you're a kid and you don't even really speak the language or understand what's going on, let alone know how to present a case in a court of law. But that's just part of what we're doing. We're also arresting and detaining American citizens, and at least in one case, and I stand corrected, that particular person, that child and his siblings were deported to Mexico, not Guantanamo, not El Salvador. But that one particular article that I read, in that case, they were deported to Mexico. It is absolutely insane what we are doing, because it's hypocritical. I don't care if you aren't a U.S. citizen. We are supposed to be the standard for the rest of the world and have been the standard for the rest of the world until January 20th, 2025, wherein we do not treat people the way that we have been later. We give you a hearing, notice, opportunity to be heard so that you can present your side of the situation. We don't get mad at you if you express your opinions, because this is the land where free speech reigns. But here lately, it seems that we are backtracking on all those promises, not just to people who aren't from here, but people who have been born and raised here, as well as those who've gone through the process of becoming citizens.
Right. And Mike, 1 minute. Any statement?
I can be very brief. I agree with much of what Ann just said, and thank you for doing the research on our behalf, because I can't type that fast.
You're welcome.
I do the old hunt and peck thing, so it's really awkward for me to do it. I can do it, but it just takes me time. I would never, ever defend bad law enforcement and them stepping outside the boundaries of their sworn oath of office. You've sworn an oath to the Constitution of the United States, and in my case, the Constitution of the state of California, which I swore an oath to many, many, many times over 3 decades. So I will never, ever defend bad law enforcement. I will never defend circumventing people's rights to due process, ever, ever, ever. And I'll add to that, I won't defend the judicial system of their bad behavior too, where bad decisions are made by evil judges. I don't care which side of the aisle you're from. I won't defend those bad decisions that harm people, harm families, harm children, any of those things. So, and did those things probably happen? I believe they did. Are they probably a very small portion of the total amount of law enforcement or judicial system that's put into play? I'm kind of thinking so. Bad things still happen. It's not something that we want here in America or for the world. But it does happen, and it's regrettable that those things continue to happen. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, William.
Yeah, appreciate that. Hey, guys, we're going
Mike.
to have to take this up next week because, yeah, I agree with everything you said, and most of the things that you said, Mike. Also, I would have to. No, most of
got to qualify it.
Yeah, I do.
Well, it's good to see y'all getting along.
Don't hold your breath on this one. There's always next week. There's always, but this week, no, because I think that we all agree on sound principles, right, wrong, good, and evil, and there's no gray area as far as I'm concerned. And that I think we all 3 of us, we want the same things. We may get them in different directions or different vehicles on how to get there, but the idea is that we can have a conversation. And I think that most of America needs to have an honest conversation, with your neighbor, with your politicians, with whoever, So and I enjoyed the broadcast. I hope you guys did too. And I hope our audience did. Hey, A.T. Cowan, it's so good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank him.
Hey, lady.
Emma.
007. Yeah, that's her. A.T.
Thank you for your input.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Okay. Hey, guys, thank you so much. This has been another, I think, tremendous episode of Boomerang Radio Show. And I hope that I took something out of it. I hope our audience did as well.